Hi, and welcome to another episode of Adventures in Glass with Doug. That's me. We're going to get a little crazy today. Sometimes you can't take this artwork that seriously. After all, you're just taking thrifted glass and making something fun out of it. And I've got a couple pieces today that are going to be just that. This is just fun. Just maybe a statement piece somewhere out on the patio or in the garden or somewhere in a surprise location that's like, oh wow, what's that? Okay, we've got this piece that I think obviously I need to clean it up a little bit. It's a little skimmed up. This piece, which I just picked up, and it still has its price label on it. It was $3, which senior day would have been less. And I have one of my many plates. I have a red plate that's a little dusty. What I think we can do is just have fun with it. Now, looking at some of these pieces, I at first thought this was an obvious one, besides looking like a baseball bat. I thought it would be an obvious one to do a hanging piece, but it's really pretty heavy, and you could add something on the top, and then you'd have to put maybe another wine glass or something, and it just would be too heavy. And so I really decided against that. And the other part of this is each of these pieces is a little bit scuffed up. They obviously are not a true tinted glass that's been blown in a color. They're clear glass that has had a finish or a film put on them. And this particular one, you probably aren't going to be able to pick it up. It's been scratched around here, so you see some clear spots in there. This piece, same thing. It's got, on the ribs, it's got some scratches. And when taking the label off, peeled off some of that here. So they're not perfect. They're not chipped. The finish just isn't completely there. Now I can take some of my alcohol inks and try and match that if I want to touch it up. Unfortunately, you usually can see that it's been touched up, so I might just leave it alone. Okay, so what is it we're going to do? Well, pretty simply, we're just going to stay in the red range here. I'm going to put our red plate, which isn't exactly flat. I don't know if it's the plate or I think it's the vase, but we'll put that there. We'll put this piece on top, probably out of the viewing screen there. And I have one of my large marbles that I have salvaged from some of the breakage I had. I'm probably going to color that and put it on top just to steal off the top of that bottle. And I think I'm just going to leave it like that. I don't know, you might think of it as, it almost looks like a witch's hat or something on the top. But it's just going to be a crazy statement piece. It's going to be amongst some other pieces maybe that are outside or just standing by itself, just to add some color outside. I've got to clean these up, and then we'll be back to show you the construction. Okay, let's have a look at what we're going to do. We're going to try to take this marble that's going to go up on the top of our piece and color it with some alcohol inks. I have some gold and I have some red. They come in lots of different colors. There are several different brands that I have a link to, I think, several of them in my description if you're interested. And isopropyl alcohol kind of is your solvent base. I struggle to find marbles that are this big again. I think that I decided they were 35 millimeter, but unfortunately when I have ordered them, the best I could do were 1-inch marbles from, in this case I think I got these from Amazon, and clearly they're not as big as I would like. I really don't remember where I got these. I think I got them at Hobby Lobby or one of the craft stores. but I have not found anything that large. Again, best I can do is this size. And while that's good, it just doesn't have the same impact. But I've got a couple of these that I had to, unfortunately, were salvaged, as I keep mentioning, from my glass disaster when trees smashed through everything. So I had, these were incorporated into some other pieces that I'm going to reuse. I scraped, using a razor blade, I scraped all the old silicone off. There was just one area where I had been gluing it. Okay, so what do we need to do? Well, I usually save my caps from the silicone tubes, cut them down a little bit to give myself a little bit of a stand to do this on. Yogurt cups are always helpful for some things. All right, so using just a splash of the alcohol. I mean, it depends what you want to do. You don't have to coat it with alcohol first. I do because that kind of helps you get a total color wash. All right, so we want to get it pretty much wet. Now you could just simply paint your color or drop it on, and you can get creative with this. Sometimes it will spread evenly, and most times it won't. But that's kind of the beauty of this. Okay. We probably just need to really let that dry, but I think I'd like to play around with adding some of this gold. Now, each time you do this with an ink, depends whether you want them to mix or not, but they will definitely wash over each other. So I'm going to let that dry, and I'm probably going to go ahead and spray it with a clear coat of paint, and then I can come back and put more colors on top, play around with it a little bit more. While we're waiting for our alcohol ink to dry and the pieces that I cleaned up to make sure they're good and dry, I think we can kind of bang out another one here. This should be fairly quick. I'm going to do a hanging piece. So, and this is typical of a lot of the hanging pieces I've done. All right, so a couple of things. We're going to use a water goblet, a plate, and some sort of piece that'll be on the bottom. In this case, I'm using a candle votive that is mosaic glass. All right, it had a felt bottom on it that I peeled off and cleaned off any of the residual glue. And then, of course, you're going to need a hanger. And as I pointed out before, these hangers are about the only one that I've been able to find that can reliably work. But I put a little bit of a notch in them right about there with a file, little rat tail file, that allows me to get these to hang just right. Unfortunately, when you hang some of these all the way back in the crook, they tend to be off kilter, and I just don't like that. Okay, so this will be assembled, but I'm going to do it right side up here. Get my silicone. Again, 100% silicone. Doesn't matter the color of the tube, but I use the GE clear, and it works very well for me. The next piece is our mirrored globe. That's just going to sit on there. Alright, that's going to dry. What we'll end up doing is putting a big glob of silicone on this and putting it on the base. My cautions on the silicone and the hooks are that you really need, because this is concave and your glass base is usually concave, you want to make sure you get a good glob of silicone in there that will dry completely. You need to let that go for a couple of days to make sure it's really dry, and that should seal it really well. If you are iffy about it, if your piece is a little bit heavy, you could certainly use some epoxy. I actually have found at the Dollar Tree they've got a pretty inexpensive small tube of epoxy that works well if you're not going to be using a lot of it. So you can use the epoxy if you really don't trust your hook and the weight of your hanging piece. All right, we're going to let that dry, and we're also close to putting our other red pieces together, and when all of that is ready to go, I'll be back. Well, our red bottle is still drying inside. It's not been an easy one to get dry, but we're going to try to put the hook on this one. This is dried enough that we can flip it and put our hook up here. And like I said, you need to get enough of a puddle of silicone in here that it's going to really fill the gap. And if it doesn't, I think we got that one set. So we're going to move that aside and let that finish drying. And that will be done. I think we can take the bottom piece of this and add our plate on top of that. And I played around with which way I wanted to go on this, and I'm not entirely sure I made up my mind whether I want to go plate up or plate down. When you put this bottle on it, I think you're going to find that you've got two different looks. I kind of think I like it turned down. It looks a little bit more like a hat brim. So, and again, we have to let this finish drying in here. Alright, we'll be back when those have dried better. You may have noticed that I've got my gold and red marble ready to go. Alright, we'll be back. If you hear some sounds in the background, we've got our favorite contractor working on a couple of last minute projects. Okay, that we're going to put in here. I'm not going to put the marble on top just yet because I need to have that dry. I'll make sure that's totally dry in there, but that's how we're going to top that, unless I change my mind. Okay, and you know the drill. We're going to do silicone, put these together, set them aside to dry. That one's just for fun. That's a little silly, but it'll work. Okay, I changed my mind, which happens from time to time. I spent a lot of time trying to get this marble with gold and red to look just right, but after I looked at that, it was a little underwhelming. It would have worked, but I had something better. So, we're going to try to reach up here and get a layer of silicone on the very top. Should probably do this on a lower table. Alright, so you're going to put that front and center on here. And there we have it.
Here, I can get it like this, surely.
Totally silly, totally crazy.